industry report, credit risk has been identified as the primary risk faced by 63% of MFIs. I talked to Caroline Karanja, the CEO of MFI, and started by asking her how the sector has navigated the rather rough and tough and risky year 2023 has been.
There has still been a lot of risks, there's a lot of challenges, and I think even from today's report that has been just been presented, we could see that. This year, I must say, we started off with the finance bill that, of course, had some effects on us, especially on the digital lending. There was a caption there that was going to affect our institutions severely. However, after a lot of lobbying as an association, with the necessary, like the Parliamentary Finance Committee, we were able to actually remove that clause. However, we have also been having one other challenge. As you've seen through this report that was launched, COMFIs are still struggling. They're the credit-only microfinance institutions. We have a Microfinance Act in place. And in the Microfinance Act, there's a section that allows for the minister to develop regulations for the credit-only microfinance institutions. Our act is the Microfinance Act of 2006. Today we're in 2023. We have never had a regulatory framework for the the credit-only microfinance institutions. This is something that we have been lobbying with the National Treasury over the years, and we are happy with the current dispensation and the sitting CS. We've got an audience, and we've been able to actually make some strides. And one of the things we are waiting for actually is feedback from him, because he actually commissioned a committee that worked with us, and we were able to give our recommendations for the regulations. So that is what we have been waiting for. And we felt there was a need, because as I mentioned to you earlier, the finance bill, when these issues come up, they always say those who are not in any regulatory framework are the ones that are affected. So we felt we needed to push for our regulations. There was also the emergence of the digital lenders regulations when the CBK bill was amended. So that was also something that we felt we needed to lobby, because we were being categorized as digital lenders, which we are not. So we feel we need to push that regulations. Yeah.
And coming from the core business, which is credit, I mean, people should be able to pay back their loans, and still we are seeing non-performing loans continuing and sustainably being high for the banks, higher compared to credit only, and of course wholesale also is the lowest. Why is it still a huge concern, a going concern for the sector, this issue of NPLs?
So the non-performing loans, number one, when we talk of the credit onlys, remember this, the credit-only institutions, as compared to the microfinance banks who are regulated, they do not mobilize deposits. So microfinance banks are able to mobilize deposits, which they can on-lend. The credit-only microfinance institutions do not mobilize any deposits. However, they have what we call loan guarantee fund, which is a savings that a client gives, and then, but not to on-lend, which is put away as a guarantee fund for them to take a loan. So this is actually banked in a commercial bank. And the credit-only microfinance institution will borrow against this to on-lend. So the interest is higher as compared to the microfinance bank, who is able to mobilize deposits and a loan. So there is that disparity in terms of the interest rates, which the credit-onlys have a higher interest rates compared to the microfinance bank. Then with the economy, the way things are, we are talking about the small mama mbogas, the who, it is hard. And this started off at the onset when, of course, COVID hit. We say we will not talk about COVID now, but there was an impact that was actually long-lasting. Some of the businesses, they are trying to actually start to, try to wake up again their businesses. They lost. So you find that they took some loans that became non-performing. And it has continued like that, because some of them are still not being able to actually pay for these loans because of the way the current economy is sitting. Things are not the way they were. Things are more costly. When it comes to even the dollar, you can see, you know, the hedging and all that. When we talk about wholesale, micro lenders like Oiko Credit, which is here today, they may loan with foreign currency, and you're supposed to pay, you know, so that exchange can also bring a bit of some of these impacts that you'll see in an institution. Okay. Yeah.
And in that regard, because you've talked about how the macros are affecting actually your business. Now we are looking at 2024. It's coming in quickly. I don't know, what does the future hold?
I think once again I'll go back to our regulators, and I believe if we get a proper regulatory framework, especially for these confis, you know, they become more attractive when there is a regulatory framework, because even investors coming, they want to work with them. Most of the investors that come today, or donors or whoever, they want to work with the microfinance banks. Why? Because they are regulated. So our confis are exposed, and they are like almost, you know, they are living nowhere, you know. So we feel if we can get that regulatory framework, would be able to actually have more investors and making our confis more attractive, which will awaken them.
Yeah. And I've seen one of the aspects, before I let you go, one of the issues that you're celebrating is takeovers and purchase of MFI institutions. We've seen quite a number of banks being, of acquisitions rather. And I mean, it's kind of interesting now. People are talking on how to position themselves. So other than regulation, how best do these MFIs position themselves for seeing more investors to come on board?
So we've seen, as you've said, yes, there has been a lot of the acquisitions, the mergers and all that, but mostly actually acquisitions. And we are liking some of these acquisitions which are coming in, because they're coming and buying debt. They're coming and buying those bad books that have been there, and actually now being able to manage the portfolio that is there. And they also come with innovation, because most of them are coming now with the digital aspect. So they are also bringing value to that institution. So as we go along, because digital is where we are headed, I think it's a good thing. And we are also, and now also, of course, the way we are talking about ESG, one of the things we are also trying to do even in the coming year is to have a framework for all our institutions to be able to start integrating ESG into their organizations. So there's a lot that, and we can see there are partners who want to work with us.
All right. Ken, MFIs, they continue facing the age-old challenge of regulation, especially the credit-only ones, still not regulated. And these institutions that have been there for quite a minute, active in the 80s, 90s, and here we are today. Regulation governing them goes as back as 2006. Is it time that we change this character of slowness as a country?
No, we have to change it, Noah. Something that has been put forward in 2006, we are talking of almost 16, 17 years delayed. And for me, it's a huge indictment to Treasury, because Treasury should be really the entity that fast tracks most of these bills. For me, I've always said perhaps we need to delink Treasury and planning, those two entities, because Treasury is caught up in the day-to-day issues of debt repayments, looking for salaries. Planning needs to think long-term. Planning needs to be the strategic arm. And back in the day, these were actually two separate ministries that were actually merged. I think it's time we delink them so that acts that are like the regulatory framework they're asking for, it's something that can be done in 6 months. Why it takes 17 years, it's quite shocking. So I think it's to look at really delinking those two, allow Treasury to do really the cash flow management, but allow planning to talk about Vision 2030, the big things that you can't digest on a day-to-day basis. I think those two entities have to go separately.
All right. Prof, now when you look at some of these MFIs that have grown into microfinance banks, we've seen quite a number. I think 4 last year. There were acquisitions. There's been these mergers. Now it seems there is room also for foreign players to come on board. People with the financial muscle, within or without the country, can come on board and invest in this nascent, sector. How easy are we making, or how hard is it now to be able to facilitate that kind of arrangement?
No, this type of microfinance are very critical because they are the ones which touch the people on the ground, and foreign countries and foreign investors would want now to touch the people, and so they are very critical in terms of making the move to the people themselves. When you want to send some help to the people, it is through these people. So we need to, as we have noticed there, revisit those regulatory tools so that we can actually enable them. I think even from the report, it's like microfinance bank go ahead of them whenever it comes to foreign coordination, because they want to work with what is structured. So we need to revisit the regulation, ensure that the regulation is up to date, so that we can be able to meet the people who touch. And I'm very sure that even when you look at funding, those who are interested in changing lives in Kenya, they want to go to deep where the credit-only microfinance are. So we need to hasten the process by regulations, good regulations, and also giving them good trading opportunities and at their level.
Okay, that's very important to note. And gentlemen, this brings me to our next topic about our markets. We've been very excited, to say the least, since the president last visited the boss, NSC. I told you that story, the back story about people having tea, the president arriving. But he was there, I think, yesterday or the day before, and he was talking to, the Association of Exchanges for Africa. Now, from that, the government is poised to privatize